Today's video, as you can probably tell from the title, is the Harry Potter spells tag. And I saw this recently as an old video on Book Roast's channel, but I don't actually know who the original creator of the tag is, so sorry about that. But it seemed like a bit of fun, and so I thought I would give it a go, even though I haven't been tagged. So, number one, Expecto Patronum, a childhood book connected to good memories. And for this one, I have chosen the Mediator series by Meg Cabot. Now, this series follows a teenage girl who can see and speak to ghosts, and her job as a mediator is to help these ghosts complete their unfinished business and move on from our world into the afterlife. And there are 6 books in this series, and they're really good fun. They're very short, very easy reads, and I really enjoyed reading and rereading these when I was a young teenager, and I read them a lot on the beach while I was on holiday, so it really reminds me, this series really reminds me of the holidays and the sunshine and the beach and being happy, and they were just really enjoyable and they have very nice memories attached to them. The next question is Expelliarmus, a book that took you by surprise. And I'm going to interpret this in a slightly negative way, unfortunately, but I'm going to talk about A Dark Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, because I really expected to enjoy and love this series, and I didn't, which is a real shame and was a real surprise because I fully expected to. It's a story where the world is 4 parallel Londons. We have Black London, which is being consumed by magic, White London, which is being consumed by magic, Red London, which is flourishing with magic, and Grey London, which has lost its magic. And that concept just sounded so interesting and fun to me, but unfortunately the plot didn't pay off in my opinion, and I just didn't really feel overly connected with any of the characters, so that was a bad surprise, unfortunately. The third question is Priore Incantatem, a book that you just finished reading. So I actually have that just here. And that was Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Sky. I just finished this at the weekend just gone. It is a Japanese inspired fantasy story, essentially about magical ninjas. So it was really interesting. The plot was pretty generic in my opinion, but I did enjoy it. And if you like YA fantasy books and you want something that's not Eastern or that's not European inspired, then maybe give this one a try, because I did enjoy the Japanese elements to this book. Number 4 is Alohomora, a book that introduced you to a genre that you hadn't considered before. And for this one, I'm going to talk about the Full Metal Alchemist series by Hiromu Arakawa. This is a manga series about 2 brothers, Edward and Alphonse Elric, who are alchemists, and they're state alchemists, which means that they get involved in solving a lot of mysteries and crimes in alchemical circles, and it's really funny and amusing, and it can be dark at times, and I hadn't ever read any manga or graphic novels or comics before I picked this one up, and I really enjoyed it, and it's definitely made me want to branch out and read more manga and graphic novels and comics. Number 5, Ridiculous, a funny book that you have read. And for this one I'm going to talk about This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. Now, there's a very important message in this book, and I do think it's a very important book just generally, but aside from that, Adam Kay's analysis of his time as a junior doctor is absolutely filled with hilarious anecdotes that just have you, or they had me anyway, in absolute stitches of laughter. It's one of those books that you read it on public transport and look like a complete moron because you're sat there giggling to yourself because it's just so funny. So if you are in the mood for a laugh, then I would highly recommend this book. Number 6 is Sonorous, a book that you think everybody should know about. And for this one, I'm going to talk about a series rather than a book, and it's the Chronicles of Ixia by Maria V. Schneider. This is probably my favourite book or series of books ever. It is a fantasy series, a high fantasy series, and we follow a girl named Yelena, who at the beginning of the first book is in prison awaiting execution, and on the day of her execution she's offered a choice. Either she can go ahead and be executed, or she can become a poison taster, and she might die if she becomes a poison taster because she might get poisoned, but it gives her a chance, and she takes up that chance, and we follow her adventures. And I don't really want to tell you too much more about it because, like with most high fantasy, it goes to a lot of places that you wouldn't necessarily have expected, but it's just an absolutely fantastic series. I think it's really well written. The characters are really relatable, and I really love the characters in this series, and the world is very big, but it's not all thrown at you in the first book. The first book is actually set in a relatively small space within the world, and then we gradually move out and out and out as the books go on. There are 9 full books and a number of short stories, and they're actually split into 3 trilogies. Honestly, I think that everybody should read them. If you like fantasy, then you should give them a try because I absolutely love that series, and I really want to read the rest of Maria V. Schneider's works because I really enjoy her writing style. Number 7 is Obliviate, a book or spoiler that you would like to forget having read. And I'm sort of doing a book and a spoiler for this one because before I read the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, I had never read anything by Brandon Sanderson before, so I was trying to do my research to decide whether or not it would be something that I would enjoy. And so I was watching some reviews, and one of the reviews I watched quite clearly said spoiler-free review, and then in the first 45 seconds of the review it told you exactly how many people were going to die and at what point. So I did go ahead and read the trilogy, but I read the trilogy knowing that those deaths were coming, and I think that that really altered my reading experience. So I'd like to forget having read or forget having heard that spoiler, and also forget having read the series so that I could experience the series again for the first time without that spoiler. So that's why I'm really passionate about making sure that if you're saying you're doing a no spoiler review, it really is no spoilers. Telling me that X amount of characters are going to die at X point in a book is just, don't do that. Don't do that. No. The next question is Imperio, a book that you had to read for school. And given that I went for something negative in the Surprised Me book, I'm going to go for something positive here, because I think most of the time people are very negative about the books that they were forced to read in school because they were forced to read them. And I have a few of those too. But I'm actually going to go with Holes. And I don't know who the author is, but I will have a picture of the book somewhere so you'll be able to see who the author is. And I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was really, really great. It's about a teenage boy who, shall we say, misbehaves a little bit and is sent off to a camp for boys as punishment, and they have to dig holes. And it's kind of a mystery type book, so I won't tell you any more than that. But I really enjoyed the book, and I really didn't have a problem with reading it for school at all because I really enjoyed it. And there's actually a film out as well, which I would also recommend because the film is pretty good too. So yeah, that one. Number 9, Crucio, a book that was painful to read. And for this one, I'm going to say a recent one, and unfortunately it's another Schwab book, and it is The Near Witch. And I spoke about this in my January wrap-up, but I found this book incredibly difficult to read, and I pushed myself through it because it's part of the Schwabathon that I am running with my friend Nisha from the channel On the Margins Of, so I wanted to push myself to finish it and see if it would redeem itself really, because the first 60% of the book was just very average, not particularly interesting, but unfortunately the last 40% was awful in my opinion and really very problematic. There was, I think the most problematic thing about it, apart from the fact that the ending was just incredibly frustrating for me, I will admit that I am very difficult to please in terms of endings, but this ending really bothered me. But even aside from that, the main problematic thing was that there was some sexual violence in the book which was never addressed, and I really just, it was just completely glossed over as if it never happened. It wasn't even acknowledged as a thing, and I found that really, I just didn't like it. I thought that, you know, if you're going to include something like that in a book, it needs to at least be acknowledged. Even if it's dealt with badly by the characters, it should still at least be acknowledged as a thing and as a problem. But it happened and everybody just moved on, and I didn't appreciate that at all. And number 10, Avada Kedavra, a book that could kill. And it says interpret as you wish, and since I'm apparently in a bit of a negative mood, I'm going to interpret it in a negative manner, and I'm going to go with another book that I had to read for school, and that was Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. And honestly, I don't understand why people like it. I found the characters and the plot incredibly boring and slow. This one really wasn't for me, and to be honest, I feel like I could have died of boredom. So to me, this was a book that could kill. And I'm sorry, because I know that it's a much loved book and that there are a lot of people that really enjoy it, but I personally just do not get it. I found it incredibly dull. So there's that. Anyway, enough negativity. That's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button. I'd be so grateful. And I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks. Bye.